Well, Broncos country, how are you guys feeling today, man? After a roller coaster, gut wrenching, absolutely wild, out of its mind, terrible, heartbreaking game yesterday as the Broncos found a way to fall to the Bengals in Cincinnati. A very exciting game, 30 to 24. But man, was this one tough. And this game is kind of sums up the Broncos season at many parts of the season and many games. Just not taking advantage of opportunities, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Um, but we're going to talk about who's to blame, right? There's a laundry list of a lot of people to blame, but I'll talk about who's to blame the most. Maybe we'll go through a couple others that are to blame there. We'll regroup because I think that giving it about 24 hours to settle down and rewatching the game, there was a lot of positives, a lot of really good takeaways to take from this game as well. And listen, guys, if we are able to take care of business at home against the JV Chiefs team next week, none of this is really going to matter if you think about it. But that's a huge if, right? So we'll go from there. Firstly, guys, if you love Broncos sports, if you love the Denver Broncos, the Nuggets, the Avalanche, but I focus mainly on the Broncos on this channel for sure, hit that subscribe button. It really helped me out. I never edit my videos. We just hit record and we talk about it. I am a Bronco fan that's trying to build a really fun community and just bring you hopefully a little bit unique analysis, a different perspective on a lot of different takes. So appreciate it in advance. Thank you all so much. All right, so let's get into it. So who's to blame for the Broncos game yesterday? No doubt about it. There's, like I said, there's a lot of people and areas that you can point your finger at, but this one 100% falls on Sean Payton for a lot of different reasons. Now, the frustrating thing that I've noticed with Sean Payton this year, and like I said, guys, it's really important to keep a lot of things into perspective. Okay. Yes, Sean Payton's a very experienced head coach. He's called plays and he's, went to the playoffs and played in a bunch of different playoff games and he won a Super Bowl. I get all of that. But just like, a CEO at a different company is there's some things that you have to adjust to, right? So he's still trying to figure out and he's still trying to learn how to be the best play caller for this team, right? If someone's a really good play caller, it doesn't necessarily mean they just have this knack for calling plays. They've got a good ability to call plays for this team. And I think that there's a lot of things that he's figuring out because you see those moments of greatness and then things kind of fizzle away. But it is an atrocity that Jaleel McLaughlin is single-handedly the reason that you even were able to get back in this game, right? In the first drive of the second half, the Broncos are down 10-3, and Jaleel McLaughlin is popping off runs. He's running well. He's seeing the hole. He's explosive. He was at 61 yards through 7 carries. And after that drive, he carried the ball 3 times. They completely ran away from the run game. And in a lot of situations where it didn't make any sense, right? Because we were really only down 1 score at all points of the game. And so that's inexcusable. And it's been an annoying habit that he's consistently been doing all season. Another thing is he needs to be able – I'm not going to knock him for the not going for 2 points because I totally understand it, and it's such a hindsight decision. But you've got to be able to understand the game flow and the game situation better, and he just doesn't seem like he does that at very key moments in a game, right? I'll give you the first example, all right? The Broncos in the second half, the game is tied 17-17 after Bo hits Marvin Mims on that dime piece of a throw. The Broncos defense finally forces that turnover, right? No teams have turned the ball over at this point. We get the first turnover of the game. Huge play by Pat Surtain. We get the ball on like the 45-yard line. There's about 5 minutes left on the clock. This is the opportunity where you need to know there's like only a few different scenarios that can happen. You have to get points on the drive, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, really doesn't matter. But ideally, you've got to be able to find a way to burn as much clock as you can, hopefully burning some of their timeouts. And then in the most ideal situation, you're not giving the ball back to them. And that happens a lot in the NFL where like the last 5 minutes, you call up plays, you get the offense in a little bit of a groove, and that can happen. And I'm not just going to sit there and say, well, he didn't get us into a play, but you run the ball, they get 1 yard, and then you abandon the run completely. And you're putting yourself in a bad third down situations, right? I'm gonna run through the play-by-play here because I want to be able to make sure that I can tell you exactly, because there was a similar, that drive was very similar to some of the drives that were in overtime as well. So if you go ahead over here, pop this off. So we get the fumble, we get the ball, 1st and 10 at our 20-yard line. our 40-yard line. You're basically thinking, okay, you just need 20 yards guarantees you at least a field goal. Anything more than that is great, but the time aspect is the most important here, especially while burning their timeouts. So you give the ball to Jaleel, he gets 1 yard, and then you kind of abandon it, and Bo Nix passes the ball short to Adam Troutman. He gets 5 yards. So I actually liked that sequence. A 3rd and 4, you can deal with it. Um, I didn't hate that. And Bo Nix did a really good job of scrambling left, getting the 5 yards to be able to get the first down. Boom. But here's the problem, okay? Then you do it again. You run the ball with Estime this time. For really, I don't understand what the reason for it is. Like Jaleel was hot, okay? Minus this last carry, he was killing it. You give the ball to Estime, he gets a yard. Then you kind of panic and you throw a screen. And the whole game, the Bengals have shown that they were really good at defending like those swing passes or the screen plays, being able to fight through a lot of the receiver blocks. You didn't have a lot of success with that. So that's one reason why you're calling that. Secondly, it's to Javonte Williams. So that was his first touch of the game. Okay. And it goes for -6. Now, I get it because if the screen broke off, it could have led to a lot of yards, but it's not a good play call for any reason. Because firstly, it hasn't been working all day. We haven't really been that good of a screen team in general. So why is that your staple play? Right? Like for me, I'm thinking to myself, what the staple plays are. What if this team's shown that we can consistently run? If it's not a running play, a consistent passing play to get 6 to 8 yards. I feel like we've got some of those, right? A little Cortland Sutton or Devon Bailey slant across the middle, back shoulder, sideline throw to Cortland Sutton's worked really, really well. Flooding Nate Atkins or Troutman or any of the tight ends out on like a little flanker route just to be able to give you some positive plays. Screens haven't been working all well. It's not good. Now you're putting yourself in a really bad situation with 3rd and 15. So now you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, the first, 5 play calls of this drive are very conservative, right? You run it, you throw a short little easy pass to Troutman, which honestly we should have just done that again. And then Bo gets the first down, and you run it again, and then you have a screen. So you're doing very conservative offense. And then what happens? You are in 3rd and 15, and you decided to be very aggressive. And unfortunately, Bo Nix's pass, his hand was hit. He did have Sutton. It was open. He did have Sutton. His hand was hit. The ball gets picked. And now this particular series took the chances of us winning from 65% to 30%. It's crazy. Wild. Anyways, this is my calming juice. So there's a lot of that. There's so much to break down and talk about in this game. His end of half management has been really bad. Not just at the end of game, but also at the end of the first half. And that kind of went back to bite you in the butt again on this particular game. You saw a lot of the same things creep up in overtime, right? You get 2 cracks out of the defense. Does a good job of getting a stop. You get the ball. You absolutely can't do anything with it. And it's kind of like the same old. Very frustrating. The Broncos had a ton of opportunities to win this game. A lot of the opportunities were because the Bengals gave them to us. And a lot of the other opportunities was because we went down and we earned it. Another person I'm not really going to harp too much on VJ in this game in particular, because I think in the really key moments of the game, he did a great job mixing up the blitzes. He really started switching things up a lot. The defense, if you think about it, the defense actually got a lot of key stops at key moments. They gave up a ton of yards, but in the first half, they had 2 turnover on downs in the red zone that they stopped. In overtime, all you ask from your defense is give the offense the ball back, and they did that. So I'm not going to harp on them too much, right? Because the offense has to be better in a lot of scenarios. And because the offense was not able to get into a rhythm, we're I think leading the league in 3 and outs by quite a lot. The defense was playing way too many snaps. So there was that too. There's a lot of factors. But this team is not playing really good complementary football at all. So that's a very big frustration overall. I think Bo Nix was extremely up and down, to be fair. I think he had some incredible plays. I really do. Not just everybody's going to remember the Marvin Mims pass because it was an absolute diamond. It went 67 yards in the air and it was the furthest, and all the narratives, I get it. But go watch the last drive that ultimately he threw the touchdown pass to Marvin Mims, which, okay, you can say it's a 50-50 ball. He's getting lucky. But go watch that drive. Methodical. He was in command. He was hitting some tight window throws. Man, he had a great throw to Cortland Sutton on the sidelines. He threaded the needle to Cortland between two guys a couple times throughout the game. I thought he had very, very, very high moments, and he certainly had some low moments, for sure. Him missing Troy Franklin down the sideline. It seems like those guys, they're never really on the same page. But him missing Troy Franklin was frustrating. It kicked their ass. Now you can look at it two ways. That play call is way too aggressive for that particular part of the game, but also you've got to execute it. So it goes both ways for sure. Him missing that was tough, and then in another overtime drive, I think the second overtime drive, he got a little bit of happy feet. He didn't settle his feet down. He had Franklin and he had Troutman, I think, both wide open across the middle, and he just threw off platform and he missed it. Those are big moments that you obviously want your quarterback to be able to make the throws. I get that. But we cannot forget, guys, this is a rookie quarterback who hasn't been in these moments very often. So he's only going to get better from those. He's only going to get better from those moments. I have no doubt about it. I've seen it. Every time he struggles with something, he usually rebounds and ends up cleaning it out. I think the amount of positive plays that he made significantly outweighs the amount of negative plays, for what it's worth. But yeah, Bo, you would expect for Bo to be better, especially in that first half is when he really struggled. I really felt like he struggled because I felt like there was a lot of times where the line was surprisingly not protecting very well, but it kind of started causing him to panic and leave the pocket prematurely. So that is ultimately on him as well. They regrouped. He played a lot better in the second half, gave ourselves a chance to win. Anybody that's, you could talk about a lot of the negatives, but guys, the Bo Nix led the team down, and he tied this game 3 different times throughout the second half. He tied the game at 10. Defense gives up a long drive. He ties the game at 17. Defense, again, falters, gives up a long drive, and then in like a minute and 9 seconds, they go down. He ties the game at 24, forcing it to go to overtime. So did he make a lot of mistakes? Yes. Did he play well enough for the team to win? Without a doubt, 100%. No doubt about it. Another person to blame, obviously, Riley Moss. He was terrible, to say the least. I don't know if you could put any of the blame on the coaches too, because maybe they started to realize, hey, he's a little rusty. It didn't seem like he was 100%. I think he got banged up with something in the game as well. So make a change, make a change. Put in Chris Abrams drain and give him safety help all over the top, or always give him safety help because he got toasted. He got toasted by a really good receiver. Those kind of games are going to happen. It is what it is. I think that the real problem here was that the Broncos just didn't play complementary football. Anytime the defense finally would make a good play, the offense would make a mistake. And the offense was finally starting to get into rhythm, and they made good plays. The defense couldn't get really a crucial stop. It's part of the process, guys. That's something that we just have to remember. It is a part of the process. These types of games, these are playoff games, playoff atmospheres against teams that are fighting for their season too. So by all accounts, the Chargers game and the Bengals game were playoff games, and they were both road playoff games. So it's an unbelievable experience for this team. You can think of all of the great teams, all of the teams that have been consistent. Obviously, recently you think about the Chiefs, but you think about the Patriots. You think about, a lot of these teams that have had success in the past. They've all gone through these moments, right? The Chiefs used to be the team that they would never win the clutch games ever. The 49ers, for what it was worth. I mean, in the first few years under Kyle Shanahan, you saw them having to get through these little levels. There's so many different examples. This is a part of the process. These are really important games for this team to play. Whether they make the playoffs this year or not, they are imperative. Because I don't even know if there is a player on this roster. There's got to be, you would think. But I don't even know if there's a player on this roster that's actually playing in a playoff game, now that I actually think about it. Maybe Brandon Jones. It's wild. It's wild to think of that. John Franklin Myers hasn't either. So yeah, it's crazy. Like you've got, maybe the Troutmans and some of the guys that Sean Payton's brought over, but that's about it. So this is a team that's not really used to these kinds of environments. I thought they showed a lot of fight. I thought they showed a lot of grit. I love the effort that they were playing with. I don't really feel like they felt like it was too big for the moment. But there's so many things, man, that we can learn from the Chargers game and the Bengals game. Like I said, you end up winning this weekend, a game that there's no reason on earth you should lose. Those two games, we're going to look back on them and say, man, that could have been, essentially one of the best thing that's happened to this team. Just like you can look at the original Kansas City Chiefs game and and say, hey, that blocked field goal allowed for us to go on a huge run, right? A 4-game win streak. So it was gut wrenching, man. That was one of the more difficult losses. But like I said, you you sit back. I kind of took a little bit of time to reflect on it, and I felt like, man, there was a lot of positives that came out of this too, a ton of it, a lot of things that you really like to see, and that's kind of how you have to how you have to go about it, guys. The, I mean, let's not forget this team. I mean, even at moments last year, but certainly all the years prior to that, was not only horrendously bad, we were very boring too. Very, very boring. That is the worst combination you can have as a team, being bad and being boring. Like, think about the Browns with Thompson Robinson today, right? Or the Patriots, just boring as shit to watch this year. The Giants. I mean, today's game there was a little bit more exciting, but the Giants all year have been just putrid. That is the worst. And in a season, we have now become a solid team, an above average team. Say what you want. We're 9-7. I think you look at the season, 9-7. We are exactly what our record is. Like, I wouldn't say we're a bad 9-7 team, and I wouldn't say we're a good. I think we're right there because we've had so many things kind of balance both ways for us. So we're an above average team that's actually exciting to watch, and that's because you've got a lot of exciting young players and a really solid head coach. That, like I said, I give him the blame, but all of the blame that I think Sean Payton deserves for these last 2 games in particular, he also deserves an immense amount of credit for even putting the team in the position that we're in. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Those initial emotional reactions, I saw some crazy things on Twitter, uh, that's just what I see. The initial emotional reaction is usually always wrong. You take a step back, you think about it, some things start to make a lot more sense for you. Anyways, man, that was brutal. That was brutal. Here's another thing that the Broncos just needed. They were pretty bad on third downs as a team. They were really bad on third downs as a defense. There was moments where it got a little bit better, but I did want to go back in and look. The Bengals were 7-13 on third downs, and we were 4 of 12 on third downs. Not good. When you're bad on third downs and your defense is bad on third downs, you are just asking to lose. They also ran 84 plays. 84 plays, and we ran 60. 84. I get it was overtime, but my God, that is an insane amount of plays. Otherwise, you break it down. They had 11 drives, we had 10. So you can see how much longer those drives were. The average yards per play, roughly the same. They had 5.9, we were 5.5. It was just frustrating that in the moments where we really could have captured this game, we didn't. So that's, you hate to see that. There's no doubt about it. But it is what it is at this particular point. One last stat of note is that of the 84 snaps that the Bengals had, 50 of their snaps were past midfield for the Broncos. That is insanity. And 22 for us. Guys, if you look at it, we were kind of lucky to even be able to have a chance in this game at moments, especially in the first half. So we just got to clean some things up. We just got to be better. The defense is it broken? Yeah, it's definitely not nearly at the level it was earlier in the year. But I feel like that was a hell of a good offense. Zach Allen had an unbelievable day. The pass rush was actually looking good. The thing is that those quick passes were open and they were open early. So we're gonna have to figure that out. That's kind of an off-season thing to figure out. It's not something that you can necessarily figure out now. But a lot to digest. I appreciate y'all tuning in. It's a little bit of a longer video. I don't believe I'm going to be able to go live tonight with the fellas. David and Jeremy are going live here in just a few hours. I'll let you guys put a link to his channel. You can go check out when he's scheduled it for. I'm going to try to get on for a little bit, but I have some family stuff I got to do today. So wanted to just kind of come in, see how you guys are feeling. Let me know in the comments below. And let's regroup. Let's try to enjoy this week. Man, my heart couldn't take yesterday. Let's try to enjoy this week. Relax. Enjoy the new year. Bring in the new year. End the new year on a positive note and bring in the new year with as much positivity as you can, and we'll go from there. Appreciate y'all. Spend time with those you love the most. Go Broncos as always, baby. And until next time.